Hey, Thomas here, and I wanted to briefly describe the process of taking our software programs and interacting with online websites or REST services or cloud services or wherever you want to call it. If the website has a what they call an API, then we can connect to that API and get data from that web service. So what our software programs usually do right now, they interact with a local database that's installed with the software program. So what it does is when you first open a list view, it gets all the records for that table and displays it into a grid or a schedule or different types of lists, but it's still, you're getting all the records from that table. And we're going to be doing the same thing with the REST service. So the next thing we may do is we may create a new record. So when we click the new button, we create a new record. It just creates that new record in the local database. What we want to do is connect to this REST service and create the new record. When we edit a record and we click save, we're updating that record in the local database. And the REST stuff will work similar. It's just we're going to connect to the REST service instead of our local database. When we delete a record, we delete it from our local database. And instead of connecting to our local database, we're going to connect to the REST service. So these are the main features of what we're going to be doing: getting all records, creating a new record, update a record, and delete a record. The reason I point this out is because we're going to have to write automation scripts, since each REST service is different, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would be able to streamline this for you. But we're going to have to create a script that handles the getting all records. We're going to have to create a script that creates the records. We're going to have to create a script that updates the records. And we're going to have to create a script that deletes records. It may seem hard, but once you get to these 3 points, it's actually pretty easy. These almost all work similar. This one will be a little bit more work, but it's not too bad once you actually understand the flow of things. So what we want to do, let's see. This is a Trello. I've been using Trello a lot for testing. This is Trello's API, and you're going to have to get used to looking at these type of references in order to build your scripts. Like I said, once you get used to it, they're not too difficult. But this will tell you the type of authorization, because when we use a REST service, we have to authorize. It's like if we were to sign into Windows, we'd have to set a password or PIN number. So they want us to authorize, and then once we authorize, we can start doing our gets, our creates, our updates, and our deletes. If we were to look at Trello's, we see a bunch of different actions. See the get, the puts, and the deletes. So that kind of maps to what we want to do. Just a side note, this is called JSON. This is actually what your forms are going to be displaying. We're going to take the JSON, which is already built in. You just have to fill out the forms. We'll take this and we'll convert it to your forms. Like I said, it looks harder than what it really is. So if we look at the test, our Trello test project, we'll open up our data model. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to create an account form. Now, like I said, the accounts right here, we have 4 basic account forms right here. The basic auth is if the web service wants a username or password. The auth1 account and auth2 account are more elaborate, because they require tokens being sent back and forth, but I handle all that under the scene. So you're going to have to figure out, and it should be within the documentation, of what type of authorization that they will require. And you'll use that as the account. So this will be stored in your local database. They're going to fill this out with their username, password. Like here we have account name, account key, and an account token. Now the account key and account token for Trello, they can get that in when they log in under their profile. So we have this being stored in the local database, and if we go to the Trello, the REST services aren't stored in the local database. It's actually this stuff right here, where we get it from Trello or from whatever web service you're connecting to. And then we're going to convert that into this form. So if I wanted to list all the board forms, I create a board ID, which is this right here, this ID form. And if I click the edit, you'll notice that there's a JSON name right here. And that'll be the name that the JSON has right here. That little ID is what we're going to put in this field. That way the software knows that this field goes into the board ID field. And this is the key, so we have to make sure that's selected. And we're just gonna, we don't care about all of this. We just want the name right here. That's all we want, is the name to display. We don't have to display everything in the JSON. We can pick and choose what we want. We just did a text field for name, and you can see our JSON name. Our JSON name is name, which comes from board name right there. Now, when we create, the thing about these web services is when you get the information back, you get usually most of the information. Now, and when you create a record, the web service doesn't need all of this information. It just needs maybe 3 or 4 fields or 1 field. Like in this case, we could say we just need 1 field, and that's called name. So in order to keep with that minimal data that's required for a create, you're able to create a new form. I call this the Trello create board form. I captioned it new board because that's what's going to pop up on the window when the user sees it. But you notice the navigation is blank because I don't want that to show up in the navigation of the software. I want this to be shown only when they click the new button on board, on the Trello board. So this is the main Trello board that's going to be displayed when they click that navigation button. It's going to grab all the boards under my account and display it in the grid. And when I click new, you'll notice the create form here. It's going to display that Trello create board form. Now, if that's blank, it's just going to show the normal Trello board form. It won't show this form, but if you set that create form to another form, it will show that new form. So we have 2 forms. This one's going to be the main list form, and if they double click a current record, it will show the details of that, and this will be the create board form. So when they click the new button, they'll show this button. Okay, and now let's show you what I'm talking about. It's easier to see it instead of trying to explain it. So we have this Trello section here. We have our Trello accounts. Like I said, this is actually stored in our local database. This will be the account information we need to authenticate and use their API. So we'd have the name, we would put our key, and then we would type in our token, which is password, as we are using the new password protected that we can see here. And then we would click save. Now if we click the board, there's no boards popping up yet because we haven't written the scripts for our get. So if we were to go over the tools, you'll notice when you run it, you'll get these automation tools. When your customer runs it, they won't be able to change it. So we would write our get logic where we want to pull down all of our information. We can do it pretty quick with our snippets. So we could fill in our variables, and there's our get logic. Now, if we were to, if we don't actually putting in a new script or an update script or a delete script, you'll notice that we have a new script created. But if we didn't have a new script created, we wouldn't have the new button. We don't have the delete button. And if we opened up one of our records and there was no update script, there would be no save functionality. So you can control what they can do with it by your scripts. If you don't have the new, the update, or the delete, then they won't be able to create a new record. They won't be able to update a existing record, and they won't be able to delete a record. So if you don't want them to be able to delete a record, then just don't enter in a delete script. But we have a new script set up. So we have the new button shown on our board. And if you remember that we're using a different form to show when we create the new. So if we click new, here's our new board right here. That's the only way the user has access to this board. So if we were to select our account and type in a name and click OK, it would run the new script, which would create a new board on that service. So that's a quick rundown. I'm going to get more in depth into each of these individual actions, but the overall picture is this works similar to the local database stuff, where you're going to list, here's like if I clicked on the Trello, this is actually getting it from the local database. So I have a list of my Trello accounts. I can create a new Trello account. I can delete a Trello account, and if I open this, I could change it and save the Trello account. So what we're going to be doing the same type of features on our REST. The end user won't know the difference. It won't know this one's coming from the local database and this one's coming from the web service.